Cool. Louis, can you give us a one big clap? You know, as you did.
Hey guys, and welcome to SmallTalk, a series by USW Music and Sound where we interview musicians, producers and industry experts on how they broke through into the industry. And today we're joined by Skip Curtis, lead singer of XY&O, songwriter and USW's very own lecturer.
So what do Björk, St Vincent and Frank Zappa all have in common, Skip?
Eccentricity?
Sort of, but none of their songs have anywhere near the amount of plays as Low Tide on Spotify.
Really?
Yeah.
We went through it.
Björk.
Björk, you got more than any Björk song.
Björk, St Vincent,
How was that
Frank
happening?
Zappa.
What's the
There are a
world
few
coming
others.
to? Music in a
Other
stream.
than one vaccine song, you got more than all theirs as well.
Streaming.
Same with Farage Amnesty.
That's ridiculous.
It's nuts.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I think it's on their Spotify streams.
Oh well. That's crazy.
So when we were having a bit of research about you, we found out that the one and only Drake had actually, there was rumours that he'd put some feelings of liking your song Low Tide, and obviously you did some remixes of him. How true is all this?
I don't know. It's kind of cropped up a few times in interviews. I think it was. I mean, it was posted on a website somewhere, from what I believe. Maybe it's like Reddit. Some people, I mean, our management at the time was the guy who chased it up and said, this is amazing. Drake said this on a radio show in America, plugged your song or was listening to your song. What I think it was, because of our band name, XY&O, I know that Drake has XO Music, and Drake also has OVO Sound, which are two of his kind of companies. I'm convinced it surely must have been that. We would have had more followers from Drake's fans, surely, if he'd name-checked it. I remember seeing a thing where Taylor Swift name-checked a great artist who you should check out from Sweden called Eric Hassel. And I think she wrote a little note saying, top 5 songs I'm listening to at the moment. And it was all, well-known artists. And then she put this guy on there, Eric Hassel, who's pretty well-known, certainly in Europe. And him and his manager, the newest manager, and they said that one little tweet from Taylor Swift did more than 10 years of work for us. Nice. The power of the celebrity. So surely if Drake had name-checked us, I mean, it'd be amazing if he did, but I'm not sure he did.
Yes. So obviously you're a songwriter yourself. I'm assuming you've worked with other songwriters on different projects and stuff. Or?
Yeah, I mean, you write some stuff and you want to be named as a writer. I've ghostwritten some stuff where I'm not named as a writer. Yeah. I've sung on stuff where I've asked to not be listed as a singer. You can scour the internet and try and find those songs if you want. Sometimes I was confused when I started in the industry. I didn't know whether I wanted to be an artist or a writer or a producer or what. But these days, you meet so many people who just kind of have portfolio careers, and they'll write songs for other artists. Writing a song is writing a song, whether it's right for you to sing it. Well, sometimes it isn't. So sometimes other people will do a better job than you will. So you give it to them.
Is there, in terms of songwriting, is there any advice? Because obviously we've got a course on songwriting. I think it's in MA here. Yeah. That you would give to aspiring songwriters, or?
I mean, it's broad, Yeah. If you want to songwrite commercially, there kind of are parameters you have to follow. Song lengths, choruses coming early is a little bit painted by numbers that some people are really good at and really like, and some people enjoy that process. Some people, that goes against everything they stand for, and they don't want to write to formula. If you want to just write songs, music is an art form first and foremost, always should be. It's a business if you want it to be, or you want to pursue it in that way. So as a songwriter, if you want to do it commercially, be prepared to be scrutinised, be prepared to write to formulas to a certain degree, depending on the genre. If you just want to be a writer who writes great songs for yourselves, for other people, just write what you believe in. Surely that's the best way.
Yeah, just follow.
So with the song Low Tide, which is obviously a big hit, you broke into America quite quickly. How did that come about, do you think, and how did that sort of impact your career?
That song has been a blessing and a curse for the band's career anyway. It I don't want to say it took off, but it got playlisted heavily and it got a lot of plays. Representative to how big we were as a band, it got a lot of plays and still has. It's far outperformed us as a band, which has been a great thing. But we also just weren't ready to capitalise on that. I think that song was, put into Spotify's whatever viral chart, and was taken off. We were getting streams. We hadn't even played a single gig as a band, so we've always been chasing we missed obviously the big hype from that song. When people are Googling who are XY&O, where can I see them play live, who are the band members, where are they from, we just had no information about us. So that's always been an issue, trying to catch up with it, really. And yeah, for your the first thing you ever release to be the biggest thing you release, that's not great. It's good to have something that got to a level of being, somewhat big. But you're always trying to, everything's measured against it now. The way it got picked up in America was the old-fashioned way, I think, through radio stations primarily. We put it on SoundCloud. We got contacted by people in the US who thought we were from the US, saying you guys from Cardiff, San Diego, not Cardiff, Glamorgan or whatever it is. And then we were just being played on college radio. Around the same time, we put it onto Spotify, and we didn't even know. I mean, Spotify playlist was fairly new, at this point, or no one really knew the power that we know now. And I remember being at a wedding a couple of weeks after it was released, and again, it was a really bad signal. It was a wedding in Wales, right? So there's no signal in wedding venues in Wales. And I got sent a picture message, and I couldn't download it, like a screenshot of something. And then I got another text saying, "Congratulations on the top 10, mate," from our manager at the time. And I was thinking, well, I know it hasn't got into the top 10 charts. Didn't know what it was and just kind of ignored it. And then the day after, we saw that all of a sudden we had a couple of million streams on it, and it had been in Spotify's chart. And it's really good to have that. But at the same time, if I was going to give someone a lesson on what not to do, or what to do rather, it's get everything ready, because you never know how quickly things can take off in music, like that song did to a certain degree. I'm not saying it's a number one smash worldwide at all, but in Spotify terms, it got played.
Obviously, we've been speaking about the band and speaking about you and stuff, but we're going to just throw it back a little bit. So before you were in the band, I read you'd worked with like A&R, or as A&R, as a consultant for some majors and indies.
Yeah, I guess I used to just go and meet them and take them bands and talk about bands they were looking to sign. It is what I did when I was in university, in my third year, towards the end. Again, I thought I wanted to be a music business person. I always loved songwriting, I always loved singing and playing, but I don't know why. Just at the time, I thought maybe the business of music is for me. So I ended up writing a blog, new music blog, writing about new bands, finding new bands. You then get contacted by people saying, "Oh, hi Skip, I read your blog. Any chance you can come up to my office and talk about those bands that you're writing about?" I wasn't reviewing bands. No. It was just finding information out about them, which I didn't really know it at the time, but you were kind of doing the job of an A&R scout to a certain degree. So I'd go up there and talk to them. I spent a year, 2 years really travelling up to London, meeting as many people as I could, sitting down, talking to you develop relationships with certain labels, so you work more closely with some than others, depending on the genre of artists you're finding. It was, we were having a little chat before you were filming it. It was not as good a time then as it is now, because streaming hadn't really kind of brought as much value back into the music industry as it has in the last couple of years. So lots of A&R teams at labels were being made smaller. People were losing their jobs, so they were using kind of external people in the regions, if you want, like they used to come in and discuss what was going on in the regions.
And was there any, obviously with the majors and indies, obviously in terms of when we've been learning with you, there's a fair big difference on how you're working with a major. You have all the funding, you have all the names. If you're working with an indie, you've got that personal kind of connection with them. Was there any differences you noticed between working with the two? Or?
I was never working with them at a level where I was kind of seeing that real A&R management.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't signing anybody to them. I was taking them artists, and then they choose if they wanted to sign them. So I'm sure that, you know, there are differences between the way that majors and indies work. The fundamentals of A&R, I mean, I wasn't working with any kind of obscure indies. It was all the kind of, you know, I'd go and meet people like Domino and things like that.
Yeah.
So they're always fairly commercial in what they look for, commercial in the loosest sense of that term. And what they look for in bands was not really any different. They looked for people who were good live, dedicated, had lots of songs, you know, fit the bill, looked right, as sad as it is, that side of things. What you would see occasionally, what I found later on when I was kind of producing bands a little bit more, getting more involved, you'd get funding from majors. You would very rarely would you get funding from indies, just to go and say, go make some demos, boys. There's X amount of pounds to go and track something. Literally, you know, it's not even a drop in the ocean to a major record label to spend a couple of days recording.
Yeah.
Some of them have studios in the buildings, you know, as well.
This much talent for songwriting and producing, and obviously there you've got producers and songwriters who've worked with Arctic Monkeys, Adele, Amy Winehouse. Was this something, did they contact you about it, or were you?
It has changed. I mean, I don't work with them anymore, but for a good few years when I left uni, it was with them. A woman called Sandy, who ran the company with just her, really, her and an assistant called Gillian. They were lovely, the pair of them. They were my first, you know, proper managers, I guess, to have in the music business. As a producer and a songwriter, I wasn't an artist at this point. I was taking bands into the studio, recording them, trying to suggest things for them. Production in the old school sense, not in the, you know, I'll make you a slamming beat sense. That's great, and you need that, but it just wasn't my area. It was much more structuring songs. And it was ridiculous, the roster. For me to be on that roster as the smallest of small fish, with people like Jim Abyss, Trevor Horn, these huge, you know, monsters of production and songwriting. But she contacted me. I think it was through a lawyer. I think a lawyer who I'd met doing A&R actually, because they were looking at one of the bands I was kind of touting around. She'd mentioned to Sandy, this woman, saying there's a Welsh guy called Skip who's, you know, working with cool bands. And she was amazing. You know, her offices were based in the old Sam recording studios in Notting Hill, which have been demolished now. So you had Bob Marley's flat there. You know, I used to sit there and above the studio. Great. I met so many great people with her. We ended on totally amicable terms. It was just a case of me not wanting to spend so much time in London and wanted to kind of do the artist thing more than the producer thing. Okay. But she was amazing there to work with and meet and learn about the industry and meet people. And she introduced me to a lot of people who I still deal with all the time.
So we just talked about management. What characteristics do you look for as an artist in terms of management?
In a manager, enthusiasm more than anything else. A passion for. They don't necessarily have to have so much passion for your music. You want that, but you know, the artist is usually passionate about the music themselves, so you've kind of got enough of that. Someone who's enthusiastic, someone who is willing, you know, to go and meet people. I don't necessarily look for somebody who's that experienced, because the music industry changes so quickly. I think experience is important and useful, but isn't the be all and end all. That's what I want. That's what I've always wanted, is that kind of drive to help you. I've had clashes with management in the past where they've, in my opinion, strayed into the creative side of things too much. I don't necessarily want a manager to have too much say on how I write songs. I could take criticism, that's fine. I'm all for someone saying maybe the chorus shouldn't be so long or should be shorter, but sometimes they've overstepped the mark. And I'm kind of, for me, it's personally, it's you're there to manage and help the kind of commercial side of a project, I guess. I don't want someone to help me write songs. Not that I don't need someone to help me write songs, because by no means are my songs the best or anything like that. But that's just not what you look for. That's not what I look for anyway.
So we're going to go back to the band now. And obviously you've played a lot of gigs in Cardiff, and you're going on your tour, and you're playing like club, etc. What is it about Cardiff, perhaps like right now, that stands out for you as a city?
It's the closest thing we've got to a home, I suppose, as a band. We are 2/3 of the band are from Cardiff. One, Barry, the loosest, just about Cardiff. One of them is from Cardiff, and Cardiff is my adopted, I guess, city, being valleys. There's no real city to latch onto. You're right, I think it's a really great place at the moment. There's obviously been really sad news about venues shutting and tragic news in that respect, with some iconic city venues going, but there's still other ones that we have to kind of embrace and support while they still stand, while they're still open. We haven't actually played the city that much, considering it is our kind of home. We never did like a lot of bands will play the same venue 5-6 times and then start branching out. We never had that. We were so strange with gigging. We played Glastonbury. It was our 9th gig, I think, as a band, which was really weird. We just couldn't believe that we got there without kind of paying our dues almost. I think we'd played in other bands, and we've all played the horrible venues. But Cardiff right now is, we did a residency here last year.
Big Top was that?
At Big Top, which was primarily for us to kind of try out our new live show and new gear and new setup. And it was amazing. Like, we were amazed at how supportive people were, and anybody who's from Cardiff or from the should be proud of Cardiff. It's a city to be proud of. So for us, playing here, when we do play here now in March, hopefully is a good one. It's like a homecoming. We haven't been anywhere, but it's like a homecoming.
So obviously you're going to be working on promoting your new solo stuff in the next few months. When I was looking at the way you promoted, I think it was a recent song, maybe in December, before you could stream it, you used on the mailing list, you used like a download code or something on there. If you've got any more like wacky ways to promote, or is it like for an up and coming artist, do you want to stand out a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You just have to try and stand. There's so much new music coming out all the time.
Yeah.
Loads of good stuff coming out all the time, especially in Cardiff at the moment. There's such cool bands and great artists making stuff. Just trying to stand out is hard. So anything you can do, even if it's kind of going back to old school tried and tested techniques like mailing lists are, even getting that initial 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30, 40 people who are really into your band to kind of start sharing stuff early or download stuff early or pre-order or whatever you can do on now Spotify. You can like save stuff to be streamed wherever it comes out, I think. It's just invaluable. I mean, they are your real kind of fans, the people who will do that stuff. And we've seen through XY&O that having millions of streams, that's cool, that's great, but not all of those millions of people are going to, or millions of streamers are going to be a real fan of yours. It might just be stuff they've heard on a playlist. The people who are going to sign up to your mailing list and download, pre-order and engage you in that way, those are the people that you should really treat, first and foremost. That is your real fan base. And we realised that. And we, as I said, we played the residency gig. Some people came to all 4 gigs. We played the same set 4 times. Not much changed from the live show because it was about rehearsing essentially with the crowd. And it's just amazing to see people who even on for us as a very small band and a very small live band, have coming out and supporting. Those are the ones that, just by whether you're thinking business or not, just by the ones that you emotionally want to try and nurture. Yeah. Because they're the ones who've invested in you, I guess.
And so you spoke about playlists and how people hear you. So you've been playlisted for Nike, different stores such as Vans and stuff. And we spoke a bit about it earlier, but how do you go about getting onto those playlists?
Again, online playlists, streaming playlists. I'm pretty sure you can pitch to people now. You can find companies who will say, give me $500 and I will send your stuff to all the top playlisters. Whether they do or not, I'm not sure. There's obviously some sort of merit in doing that. If you want to be playlisted, great. If that's what your goal is, to be a playlist band, fine. And that does give you somewhat of a career. But again, take it from someone who is a playlist band artist. Not that we intended that. It's not the be all and end all. By getting brands to use your stuff, I don't really know how it happened. I think it was a case of they probably heard it on a playlist and they choose to use it. Nobody has to ask permission. That's the thing with Spotify and things like that.
Yeah.
If your music's on there, if your music's on that software, on that website or service, it's free game for anybody to use. So you could end up being on a playlist of someone you have a real problem with. If I had a real problem with the way that Nike market their clothes, I don't, but I'm sure I would if I ran into it, like most fashion brands. But if there was some issue that you had with Nike, you can request to have it taken off, but you can't really block it from being used in the first place. In that sense, like broadcasters using your material, most people are cool and you want that. I would just tell people, if you are dead set on being playlisted because you think that's it. I mean, you said at the start, more plays than Bjork, or more plays than St. Vincent, or more plays than Frank Zappa. Those artists blow us out of the water in every respect, other than perhaps playlisting. And a lot more people will have heard of Bjork than will have heard of my band. So playlisting is great and it's useful, and it might bring you a little bit of an income that you can reinvest into something else. But it's not something that I would tell anybody to just outright pursue. If your people like your music, it'll be playlisted somewhere. Even if it's just by people like us putting it on our personal playlists, that's probably better.
So you're a lecturer now at University of South Wales, obviously, because you teach me and Toby. But what made you get into teaching?
I just had to, really. A family full of teachers, I didn't have any other choice. Now, my parents are both PE teachers, so I think that was the
music.
Yeah, I think that was the kind of assumed thing, is that Skip will come and teach PE, at some point. Played sport, as a kid and all that. Family full of teachers. It's a weird story, actually. I don't know if you've got time on this small talk for me to tell you the real story. I'll try and tell it quickly. I was going to Manchester. My brother lived in Manchester. I was going up there to visit him. He shared an office with a guy who taught at a music university in Manchester. And he said, my brother's coming up. He's in the music business. You should meet him, because I was doing A&R, and I think XY&O had a song out, probably Low Tide at this point. So he said, oh yeah, there's a guy who wants to meet you just for a drink to talk about the music business. Cool. So I turned up at Manchester after driving up thinking I'm going to go for a drink with my brother and his mate, basically. Turned out my brother wasn't coming, and this guy called Liam, who was really nice, took me to this school in Manchester and said, I don't know if your brother's told you, but thanks for helping us out today. And I ended up being swept into an A&R clinic sort of session at this music school in Manchester, sat alongside a guy called Mike Pickering, who was an A&R consultant for Columbia, big DJ, was in a band called M People in the 90s, and, kind of Mancunian legend almost. A guy called Ollie Hodge, who was head of Columbia Records A&R at the time. A guy called Mike Walsh, who was the head of XFM. I think they're based in Manchester. So these three guys are on this panel, and then me, just thrown on the end as this kind of low-level guy who did a bit of A&R scouting and is now in a band that no one's heard of, was thrown on the end. And we had to watch performers and give feedback on what we thought it was. I just rolled with it and thought, this is fun, all right. Rather better than sitting in a pub and just talking nonsense. So I stayed there kind of all afternoon with this guy, and then they said, if you ever, after this clinic, sort of saying, would you want to do some teaching here in Manchester with these guys, giving feedback on artist development, I guess what it was. So I said, sounds great, but I live in South Wales, so that's tricky for me to get. I think they thought I was from Manchester. They have a sister, I guess, college in Bristol. So they said, what about the Bristol one, if that's closer to you? So I said, cool, I'll give it a go. A couple of years ago, and then one thing led to another, and since then being involved in higher education and teaching. It's all music business. I don't teach a subject that I'm not personally vested in, as much as I would love to teach PE or geography. It's got to be music business. That's what the industry I know. That's the industry I live in. I think it's really great because it's I'm kind of teaching it and living it at the same time. And I really enjoy it. It's a role that It's fun. It almost feels like a gig to me. I have a very similar feeling if I'm stood up in front of a class of 30 people as if I am stood in front of a gig of 30 people.
We've already asked a lot about your work, and you work here as a lecturer, but what music are you listening to right now?
Right now, War on Drugs. I just try and, to be as cool as that band, but nobody is getting close at the moment, in my opinion. I know they're not new as such. I listen to them lots. I listen to loads of synthwave. I don't know why, but I just love that synthwave.
Well, like retro synth?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, not old acts doing it, new acts who are recreating it. So there's an act called The Midnight who make amazing kind of. It's very pop synthwave. It's not. If you're a super cool guy, you might not like it. I listen to loads of stuff. When Spotify does your kind of roundup at the end of the year,
yeah.
like your favourite genre is whatever, vapor soul. It just doesn't know with me. It kind of goes, your favourite genre is, don't really know. And it tells you your favourite song. I listen to a lot of classical music. It's fairly new to me. I was trying to appreciate it and get into it, and I definitely have. And now I totally fell for it, head over heels. Listen to a lot of. At the moment, I'm listening to Sharon Jones, because Nick in my band is the guitar player is avid Daptones fan. He's the Dap Kings and Daptone Records. So Charles Bradley and Sharon Jones, the Dap Kings. Yeah, great music.
And finally, as you mentioned earlier, you played Glastonbury. I'm just going to put it out there, what's the weirdest thing you've seen on tour or at a festival? So just the maddest thing.
Glastonbury wasn't too mad, to be honest. I didn't really go mad at Glastonbury. So I guess I kind of just didn't see too much madness. It's strange being backstage, with people that you see or hear on the radio.
Yeah.
So I remember at Glastonbury, we were backstage. Our manager at the time was very keen on us building relationships and working the room. The other two boys in the band are drunk at this point or whatever, and I just don't want to work the room. I just want to sit there and whatever, drink tea probably. And we were backstage, and Annie Mac was there, in our BBC introducing tent. Our manager, again at the time, was avid that I go up and speak to Annie Mac and make an impression on her so that she plays our music, like that was ever going to work. So I was just kind of, pushed into Annie Mac. I went, "Oh, hi Annie, right?" She was like, "Do I know you?" And I went, "Oh yeah, we're playing tomorrow on the introducing stage." And she's got crazy piercing blue eyes at Annie Mac. And she was like, "Who is this strange, pale Welsh guy who barely understand?" But then they were giving us free massages, which was great. I've seen some horrible things. We played a gig in Poland earlier in the year, and coming back was interesting. The other two boys in the band were worse for wear, flying back. I'm amazed they got on the plane. I'm amazed they were allowed on the plane.
Was that bad?
It was that bad, yeah. He left his MacBook with all our music on, was left at Poznan Airport, wherever we flew from, Gdansk Airport, was left there, so that was cool. Years worth of stems and remixes and files were left just in the airport security desk, but I think we got it back. They just got a little bit too excited that we were playing internationally, playing overseas, early flight in the morning. Is it worth going to bed? Is it worth staying up and trying to power through? Yeah, they were.
So yeah, that's all from us, but we're just going to give you, to finish it, you've also got new music, new gigs, so take this space and just plug whatever you want, really.
Yeah, we are. So XY&O playing in Cardiff on the 22nd of March. So that's correct, yeah?
Yeah.
You can check our live dates with everybody. 22nd of March we're playing at Welsh Club. You should come down and see us. We're releasing a new single at some point in March. I don't know the exact date yet. Hopefully before the 22nd, otherwise our whole marketing plan is off. And my solo music is just a work in progress. I'll keep you posted on that.
So yeah, once again, thanks Skip for coming on, talking to us
No
about
worries.
all this. And yeah, make sure to check his new music out, XY&O new single in March, and make sure if you can to head down to their gig in Cardiff on the 22nd of March, and if not, any of the others in Exeter, London or Bristol.
Oh yeah, we are playing other
In
places
some fairly
too.
big ones. But
Yeah, just search it on Facebook and
just look them
we'll
up.
find all the dates. Come to them all if you want.
Yeah, that's all from us. Have a good day, guys.